Hello there. Welcome into a Friday edition of the show. So glad to have you, whether you're listening on your radio, streaming the show online at extrasports1300.com, or you've downloaded the Extra Sports 1300 app to do your listening. And that app is sponsored by Diversus Health, mental health, and well-being for all. A veritable cornucopia of sports topics await you, and I'd love to get your thoughts. You can call or text them in at 719-247-1313, or if you are watching the show on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube, you can just drop a comment right there. Let's start with the Denver Broncos, shall we? For the second preseason game, Sean Payton was feeling kind of benevolent. He was allowing Davis Webb, take over, go ahead, call the plays. And then after the game, go and update your LinkedIn profile that you called plays in an NFL game. Turned it over. It was a good thing. I'm not trying to mock it. I'm just, if I'm Davis Webb, that's what I'm doing. You add a new skill, got to update that profile. It was a nice thing that Sean Payton did, paying it forward, trying to grow his coaching tree, give Davis Webb an opportunity maybe in the future to get a head coaching job. This week, though, it's going to be a little bit different.
Coach, will you call plays this week? Someone else?
No, I will. I will. Yep.
Yeah, pretty decisively answering that. It's going to be him. When it comes to getting Bo Nix and the offense ready for the season, Sean Payton, he's going to do that himself. He's not leaving that to anyone else, especially against the team he used to coach. And you may say, come on, Ryan, it's a preseason game. You may, if you have ever gone through a breakup, even an amicable one, right? There's no animosity. You just decided it's time to go our separate ways. You wished each other the best, moved on. You found someone new. They found someone new. Everybody's happy. You know you're going to run into them. Tell me you don't make sure you're looking your best. It's even like a subconscious thing, right? You're not trying to make them jealous necessarily, but you're just like, you want to be buttoned up. You want to be looking your best. You want to project how well you're doing. And maybe at some level, you want to still show somebody that you may not have any animosity towards, but you want to show them what they're missing. It's okay. I think it's human nature, but that's what this is with Sean Payton. Anytime he goes to New Orleans, he's going to want to make sure that he and his team look their best. And you remember what happened last year when Sean Payton went back. It was this big homecoming, everybody, welcoming him back. They had a luncheon. It was a nice little day they had planned. And then on Thursday night, the Broncos came out and absolutely eviscerated the New Orleans Saints, 33-10. Tell me that game meant nothing to Sean Payton. And I know this is a preseason game, but don't tell me this is just your average preseason game for Sean Payton. He's going to want his team, not just the starters, but his team in general, to put on a good show. Just human nature. And you take it a step beyond that or right in line with that. This is the last tune-up before the regular season, a regular season in which Sean Payton has stressed time and time again how important it is for the Denver Broncos to get off to a fast start. Now, I think more he's thinking week 3 against LA, week 4 against Cincinnati. With all due respect, to the teams at the first 2 weeks of the schedule. But even then, you can't afford to slip up. Can you imagine what a disaster it would be if the Broncos were anything less than 2-0 to start the year? The panic that would set in, and how irate Sean Payton would be that his team dropped a game to either the Titans or the Colts. This is their last chance to be ready for that fast start he wants his team to get to. And if you remember 2 weeks ago, this starting unit, defense, offense, did not look ready for the regular season. He had to leave his offense, led by Bo Nix, in for 3 drives just so he could try to end on a high note, just so he could get something positive out of his first team offense. First drive, 7 plays, punt. Second drive, 3 plays and a safety. And you could argue the only reason they were in position to score points was because of the interception Jaquan McMillan had on the previous drive. They only gained, 16 yards? But because McMillan and the Broncos defense gave them such good field position, which, by the way, they did routinely last year and will probably be doing that, a lot of that again this year. The Broncos offense was able to get points, even though they really didn't move the ball that well on the ensuing drive. But they got a field goal. They felt good about it. And that was that for the San Francisco game. And some of it is, I don't want to say understandable, because I don't think it's understandable why the Broncos first team offense looked as poor as they did, and why Mac Jones and the second stringers for the 49ers were able to move the ball well. Not saying it's understandable, but it's week 1 of the preseason. All right, you put it aside, move on. Didn't count. All right. This is your last chance to be ready for the season opener, because last year the Broncos weren't. They weren't. They stumbled out of the gate, and to their credit, they were able to recover. But it's something that Sean Payton will not allow, or does not want to allow. It's only partially up to him. Doesn't want that to happen this season. So this is it. And there's no reason. There is very little reason against San Francisco. There is zero reason why tomorrow the Denver Broncos offense can't look like they're supposed to. That Bo Nix can't look like he's supposed to. It's the Saints. Team you beat 33-10 over the course of an entire football game. We're talking 8 to 10 plays. The Broncos offense and defense, for that matter, I look at, it's all about expectation, right? The defense, as displeased as Sean Payton was, it's almost, you give them some leniency because you know what they are capable of. With the offense, they're capable of far less than the defense is. So they don't quite get that leniency. It may be closer to just what they are. But it's 8 to 10 plays against a team you beat 33-10 last year. You've had multiple joint practices. You've had 1 preseason game. You've had an entire training camp. Look like the Broncos team that you say you're going to be in for 8 to 10 plays. Shouldn't be too much to ask. And Sean Payton is taking it into his own hands to make sure, not leaving it up to Davis Webb or Joe Lombardi or anybody else. He's going to be calling the plays. He's going to make sure his outfit looks good against his former team and that they look ready to start the season fast. And the key for me, it all starts with the offensive line. Because what happened in the San Francisco game? Inexplicably, the 49ers backups were able to beat the first-team Broncos offensive line and pressure Bo Nix. And that's not a recipe for success with Bo Nix at this stage in his career. He is not good against pressure unless he's able to run the football. And you saw it against San Francisco. He was inaccurate. He made poor decisions like not throwing the ball to the line of scrimmage out of the back of the end zone. So the protection has to be there first and foremost for Bo Nix, because if the Saints are able to get pressure on him, I expect it to look very similar to the way that the Niners game looked. An offense that struggles to move the football against supposedly inferior competition, and Sean Payton is maybe deciding whether he should stretch out his starters a little bit more than he was planning on, just so they could end their stint in that game on a high note. Starts with the offensive line. If they get the protection, then Bo Nix should be able to look the way I thought he was going to look against San Francisco. You know, kind of a 6 of 7, 5 of 7 maybe, 60-something yards, a touchdown, and then get out of there and get on to the regular season. Week 1 wasn't enough to derail the hype train around the Denver Broncos, but I think a similar performance tomorrow from Bo Nix and company may make some a little bit uneasy going into the season opener against Tennessee. Then after that, it's your normally scheduled programming when it comes to a final preseason game. It's about the roster bubble. And it's about that running back room. Who's going to get what I think are the last 2 spots? Dobbins, R.J. Harvey, they're safe. I think Jaleel McLaughlin. Really, to me, it's 3 guys for 1 spot. I think McLaughlin's good. And I think he's busy being a new dad. So I don't know what his status is for tomorrow, but I don't know that he needs to play. I think he showed enough against Arizona with that bounce back performance that he's good. Now we're talking Estime, Bidet, and Blake Watson. Does Sean Payton give Estime one last really good shot of making this team? Back-to-back weeks now, he's put him in the second half, and he's averaged a whopping 2 yards a carry. Is he going to allow him to run behind? Because even if Dobbins and Harvey play, Dobbins is not going to be in for long. R.J. Harvey will probably get the majority of those 8 to 10. Are we going to see Estime earlier than we have and give him a real shot at making this roster? Because I don't know how you can expect his results to be any different if he comes in the second half with the 3rd, 4th string guys. So I'll be looking out for that. And then can Tyler Bidet, when he does get the chances to carry the football, run the ball well enough? We know he has the pass blocking that Sean Payton likes in a running back. Blake Watson doesn't. So if Bidet, to me, can run the ball just well enough to say, all right, balance that with the fact that he can pass block, he's in. If he can't really run the football and Blake Watson lights it up, then I think Sean Payton and George Payton and company are going to have a little bit tougher decision on their hand. But if Bidet runs the ball decently well, I think he gets that last spot. And then this is another part that we haven't really gotten into after the Devon Vele trade. Does this open up a roster spot for someone else? And we've talked so much about what does it mean for like the rotation, the roles. Well, there could be a receiver that was not going to be on the roster that's now going to be. And I would look at my guy Joaquin. Joaquin Davis, talked about him at the beginning of training camp. Thought he had an outside shot anyway. Still think he has an outside shot. Right? With his ability to play on special teams and that speed that he has. We've seen him pop up a couple of times, make a couple of catches. Do we see a little bit more of him as potentially the guy to get Devon Vele's roster spot? And then there will be, and Jessica Mendoza pointed this out yesterday when she joined me on the show, that Jordan Jackson and at that defensive end position with Uruzurike. Seems like one of them is going to make the final cut and the other one is not. So I think those are three positions that roster bubble-wise you'll be watching. But because the starters did not play last week, I think that they are the bigger story tomorrow. Or at least going into tomorrow. Last chance to see this offense and see if they're ready to go for this season. I mean, Titans, Colts, that can be all fun and games, but then it gets real fast. You have games against the Chargers, who you got swept by last year, the Bengals, who you lost to last year, and then you got the Eagles right after that. You kind of ease into the schedule, but once week 3 rolls around, things get very real for the Denver Broncos and get consequential in a hurry. So this team needs to put out a better performance than they did against San Francisco. Of course, you can watch that game tomorrow morning on KKTV 11. Take your thoughts on tomorrow's preseason game. What are you watching for? What are you expecting? 719-247-1313. Coming up next, we got to drop the charade. We need Jerry as much as he needs us. We have to stop this. We have to be honest with ourselves and stop acting like we don't crave what Jerry Jones serves up every offseason to us. We act like we hate it because that is the socially acceptable way to react to Cowboys drama. But secretly, we crave it. We love it. And the reason why is because of a few reasons, actually. One, we as a species crave drama and conflict. We say we hate it. We don't want it in our lives. We write songs about it like Mary J. Blige did, but we love drama. Maybe we don't. And even better, we love drama that doesn't happen to us. We love other people's drama, not our own, other people's. This is other people's drama. We love it. We crave it. And we want something to complain about. We want to be able to complain that we're tired of the drama with the Dallas Cowboys. Why do we care so much about the Dallas Cowboys? Why does ESPN keep shoving the Cowboys drama into our face? Because deep down, we need it. Be honest. NFL preseason, kind of boring. Right? Storyline pops up every once in a while. You get very into what your team is doing. But you don't watch a lot of the games. You don't get too hung up on anything that is happening. It doesn't satisfy the craving that you have for the actual football season. The stuff that's going on with the Cowboys, it does. And it helps move us forward. I mean, think about it. People made up the entire Dylan Gabriel story with Shedeur Sanders. They made it up. You listen to at no point had anything to do with Shedeur Sanders. And Dylan Gabriel is not unfamiliar to how all of this works. Do you think he would say something that stupid to actually call out a teammate? At no point was he talking about Shedeur Sanders, and we made it up. We made up a story because we wanted the drama, because what is going on the field during the preseason, it's just not enough. So we can say that we're tired of the Cowboys and we're tired of the Jerry Jones drama. I think where we're really actually tired of the Dallas Cowboys is when the season actually starts. That's where they're a franchise that we really don't need in our discourse. Like, yeah, I think they're going to win double-digit games because they always do as long as Dak is healthy, but they're not a serious threat to win the Super Bowl. We don't really need them when the season rolls around. There's enough going on. But right now, ooh, we love this stuff. We do. Now, we don't have to tell Jerry Jones this and give him the satisfaction. But we need Jerry Jones to do stupid stuff as much as Jerry Jones needs us to talk about him. It sustains him. It's what keeps him young, is being discussed and going on shows. Your hatred fuels him. He loves it. He loves the drama, but he loves his own drama. So he may be a little bit different than you and I. He loves his own drama. We just love drama that's not in our lives. We love when other people are having drama. So it's good. Once the regular season rolls around, we don't need it's good, Cowboys. Do the Colin Cowherd thing. Like, we're good here. We got enough. But right now, please, And this thing has hit a high note as we count down towards the start of the NFL season. And as I'm consuming all of this, because I'm man enough to admit that I am very interested in what's going on. To me, this is kind of a generational thing that's going on with the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry Jones is from the time where a man's word is his bond and a handshake is just as good as a signature on a piece of paper. And he is stuck in that time and will not evolve. So he wants to talk to Micah Parsons one-on-one, man-to-man, have a discussion, shake hands on it, and get on our way, because that's probably how he acquired the Dallas Cowboys. I don't know. I haven't watched the Netflix show yet. He may have just shaken hands with the previous owner, and now he owns it, and there's no paperwork anywhere. And then you have Micah Parsons, who is very much of this time. Under the age of 30, he has a very different mentality. And his generation, if you will, although if we're talking about generations, I think Micah and I are of the same generation. I'm just at the older end of it. I'm not talking necessarily millennial, Gen Z, but just people of his age and younger. I've noticed this. They are very leery of being taken advantage of by their employers. Right? If you have somebody, and you might be close to the same age as I am, you'll notice that whenever you bring in younger people into your work, they bring kind of a different value system in with them. Right? And in some things, like, brief story about me and how I got here. I won't take too much of your time with this. First radio station I got a job out of college with. Sold to different owners, cleaned house. Everybody gone. Okay? This is obviously a very competitive industry. It's not like I could just walk down the street, especially at my age, being just out of college, and go and pick up another job. So eventually I do some broadcasting on odds and ends stuff, just because that's about the only thing I'm halfway decent at. But this time slot on this radio station used to be a bought and paid for time slot. So my predecessor, who I owe everything to in my career, Matt Pauley, puts out this is Craigslist ad. Hey, looking for a fill-in guest host, no pay. I answer it. I'll do it. Drive an hour and 20 minutes each way from Lyman to Colorado Springs to, on some days, host this show. No pay. Doing all the other stuff I'm doing. Eventually, I get a low-level position that's actually a job in this building, still host. Things evolve. This isn't a paid-for spot anymore. Now I get paid to do this show. Okay? I don't know that a lot, and I'm not sitting here touting the virtues of what I did. It worked for me. Doesn't work for everybody else. I couldn't imagine a lot of people 10, 15, 20 years younger than me doing all of that for the amount of time I did, with no promise of actually getting the gig that we're trying for. And you'll notice the younger generation, when they come into work, there's not an hour that goes unaccounted for. Right? If they're working, they're on the clock. They're not going to go home and get a few odds and ends done. They're going to count that. And they're not going to waste any vacation days. They're not going to let them go away. And I think that the deeper psychology behind it all is they don't want to be taken advantage of. They want their work, their skills to be compensated fairly. They want them to be valued. And I think there's a virtue in that. I appreciate a lot of that. Micah Parsons is of that. So he's not going to go into Jerry Jones's office and hammer out a contract by himself, because Jerry Jones says I believe on the Michael Irvin podcast that the contract he was going to offer Micah Parsons or discuss with Micah Parsons would make him the highest paid non-quarterback ever. And that sounds great. That sounds exactly like what Micah Parsons would want. But putting myself into the mind space of Micah Parsons, I'm thinking, what about paragraph 3, section C? What are you putting in there? Like, you may tell me this is how much money I'm going to get, but do you have anything that protects you? Do you have an out anywhere in here that if I shake hands and just say this is how much money we agree to and for how long, I'm effectively shaking hands and signing a contract that there could be a myriad of other things in there that I know nothing about. I talk about the younger generation, and I think that's kind of the thought process behind this, but I think even if you're from an older generation, you can appreciate the idea that Micah Parsons would want to have his agent involved in the process. And the CBA calls for such things. So maybe Jerry Jones isn't trying to take advantage of Micah Parsons. But this is the way in the year 2025 you do business. You talk to an agent. Jerry Jones clearly, as he shared on First Take this morning, not a fan of that third party.
Spirit of not doing the old mother-dad deal. How many times have you seen the little rascal so clever go in there and mama told him, you're not going to get it. And goes in to daddy, who only sees him after 5 in the afternoon, wants to love him, and says, you can have it, son. You can have that before dinner. And he goes back in and says, Mama, Daddy said I could have it. That's the old mom, dad, been around since the beginning of time. I'm not going to go for that here. That's what's happening. I'm not going for it. No. But we've had a very, very strong negotiation. Now, by the way, frankly, it wouldn't have made any difference what the negotiation was. Guess who has to be comfortable for this to work?
Micah.
And who else?
You.
Hello. There's not room for a third.
That is an amazing amount of just not living in the year 2025 from Jerry Jones. Like, that is complete and utter nonsense. And by the way, with the mom-dad dynamic, if Micah is the kid in this scenario and his agent is the dad and Jerry Jones is the mom, I think I'm following this correctly. Usually it's the mom and the dad that get together and get on the same page for what's best for the kid. So even by Jerry Jones's fable that he's spinning here, the eventual outcome is that the two parents need to talk. Mike is the kid. Jerry Jones and Micah Parsons' agent are the parents. They got to figure this out. And it's almost like he thinks that the kid is the agent. I don't know if he actually, I know at a certain level he believes that he should be able to just reach across the table, shake Micah Parsons' hand, and that is a legally binding agreement. It's not. And because you wanted it to be that way and you were messing around with one of the most powerful agents in the sport, now you've made mom or dad, I'm forgetting which parent is which, you've made him very angry. Here was Jerry Jones yesterday on the Michael Irvin podcast.
When we wanted to send the details to the agent told us to stick it up our ass.
You intentionally went around the agent to try and get a deal done. Whether you were trying to take advantage of Micah Parsons or you're just trying because that's the way you do business, you can't do that. Can't do that. There's a way that this works. That's in the collective bargaining agreement. And Jerry Jones thinks the rules don't apply to him, which is pretty on brand for Jerry Jones. And what you're left wondering here is, will this go beyond what these other situations have? Because this is not the first time Jerry Jones has slow played a star player's contract. And we saw it with Dak and we saw it with CeeDee Lamb, and eventually the deal got done. CeeDee and Dak became rich beyond their wildest dreams, and away we go. This feels different. And maybe it's because Micah has seen this play out before, and he's like, I'm not going to do this. We're not doing it on Jerry Jones's timeline. We're doing it on mine now. Taking that power back from the employer. That's what Micah Parsons is doing. And the question is, and it's got some people inside the NFL, including Adam Schefter, that are thinking that maybe this will end in a different way. But as much as this is generational, and I find, and even down to Micah Parsons scrubbing his, to me, that's such a silly thing to scrub your social media of the team that you play for. It's such a nothing burger with me. I told my son about that this morning, and he went, ooh. His generation, his age group understands what that means. Micah's really angry. And it doesn't seem like Jerry Jones is in any mood to acquiesce. So we'll see if this turns out different. I still think Micah Parsons is going to be a Dallas Cowboy for at least the next couple of years, but it feels different. 719-24/7, 1313. More Drive Time Sports right after this. Oh, Jerry. Don't know if he's ever going to change. Ray's in here. Ray, will you grab microphone? Because I don't want to do what you said during the break a disservice. You've been watching the Cowboys doc on Netflix, right?
Yes.
And first of all, good?
It's not bad. Not like the greatest documentary I've ever watched, but definitely worth a watch.
Okay. You said something because I brought up in the last segment Dak and CD.
Right.
This Jerry Jones stuff goes back further. What were you telling me about Jimmy Johnson and Emmitt Smith?
Well, Emmitt Smith, the one to hold out on him, and them having a dispute that lasted, I think it was like 3 games into the season until Emmitt Smith got signed. And then Jimmy Johnson, who one of the biggest things with that conundrum was he felt he was disloyal to him.
Jerry Jones felt Jimmy Johnson was disloyal.
Because there was talks, because Jacksonville just got announced that they were going to be part of the expansion, and right away they said Jimmy Johnson might head down there. And this was during the season that they won back-to-back championships. So it was along with the disloyalty, and also Jerry Jones wanted to take more credit for the building of the team.
The Herschel Walker deal.
More, not just that, just the building of the whole team in general, and feeling like Jimmy Johnson feeling like, well, I'm the coach of this. Oh, and the 500 coaches thing. 500 coaches could have won a Super Bowl with the talent on this team. That was a big deal.
And I was telling Ray during the break that idea of loyalty also goes to my generational argument here, that we have 2 people from very different generations that are very beholden to the generation they come from. Some people may be able to kind of move, back and forth. And I kind of feel like maybe I'm kind of that person. I mentioned how I got in the position I'm in now, and I would certainly, espouse the virtue of that to anybody who asks me, but I also understand the importance, of mental health and getting away from work and spending time with family and all that kind of stuff that the younger generation, I think, does a much better job of prioritizing. So some of us can move back and forth or kind of fence sit a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Jerry Jones is so much in his era. Micah Parsons is so much in his, and they just completely clash. But the idea of loyalty, that is another, unfortunately, I suppose, another kind of antiquated notion. Right? Especially when you look at that idea through the lens of the National Football League. Right? There is no more disloyal league to their players than the NFL and their coaches. Maybe the English Premier League is less loyal to their coaches than the NFL. But NFL's catching up. American sports are catching up to the European model of you have one season you don't like, you fire the guy and get a new one in there. We still have a little bit of patience with our coaches, but it's evolving to that more. But this idea of Jerry Jones talking about loyalty. When Jerry Jones can fire, what was the first thing Jerry Jones did when he bought the Dallas Cowboys? He fired a freaking legend. Where was the loyalty there? And to make a real world example, corporations and businesses go through cuts all the time. Where's that loyalty? Right? I've been working at this company for X number of years and you're just laying me off to help your balance sheet. Where's the loyalty in that? And I think the younger generation has tried to wrestle that a little bit back and say, hey, if you can fire me at any time, if you go through budget cuts and turn my life upside down, you know what? I'm going to get out of this relationship what I want to get out of it. And if I feel like moving on, I'm going to move on. And I think Micah Parsons is kind of in that camp. Like, I'm doing the Dallas Cowboys a service by being great at what I do. And as long as they're going to pay me the way what I think I deserve, and they're not going to do things like Jerry Jones is trying to do and to eliminate my agent out of this, then I'll happily keep playing for the Dallas Cowboys. He's gotten to a point where he's like, I don't know how loyal I am to the organization anymore. And Jerry Jones being the guy that espouses the idea of loyalty, and loyalty exists today, maybe in shorter supply than it used to. Again, unfortunately, but it still exists. But the type of what Jerry Jones wants in terms of loyalty is more accurately described as fealty. Right? There's a difference. He feels like he and that star on the side of the helmet anyone should kill to be in that situation. And how dare you even entertain the possibility that you would play for any other team, or Jimmy Johnson, you would coach any other team? He wants fealty, not loyalty. There's a difference. Loyalty is virtuous. Fealty, there's a power dynamic to it. Loyalty feels like you're equals. I don't think what Jerry Jones wanted out of Jimmy Johnson or Emmitt Smith or Micah Parsons, fast forward to today, is so much loyalty as fealty. The way I say to do things is the way we're going to do things. And you should count yourself among the lucky ones that you get to be a Dallas Cowboy. And that is an antiquated notion. And that's part of what Micah Parsons is pushing back against. 719-247-1313. Coming up next, it's the end of an era, and the era really didn't last that long.
The cost of For the same reason, he can pretty much only work at a carnival. He has nothing to prove or disprove about himself or to himself. He has no shame. Here's your host, Ryan Kaufman.
Welcome in hour 2 on this Friday. Appreciate you tuning into the show, whether you're listening on a variety of platforms or watching along with some listening on our social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. The handle is the same everywhere you go, at XTRA Sports 1300. And while you're there, follow, subscribe, spread the word, make our community larger, because it's a good community. You're in it, I'm in it, Ray's in it. That's enough right there. Or you could text or call into the show the old-fashioned way, 719-247-1313. So today marks the end of an era. And I will remind you what happened. Not like you need reminding. It wasn't that long ago. But in February of 2021, okay, we look at time so much as pre-pandemic, post-pandemic. This is post-pandemic, so this is not that long ago. Anything 2020 or back is basically like ancient history, right? It just feels that way. This was in February of 2021. The Colorado Rockies, and this is one of those, I remember vividly where I was type of moments. And there are a few of those that I have in sports. I also remember, coincidentally, we're talking about the pandemic. I know exactly where I was and what I was doing when the NBA announced they were going to shut down. I was at, just because it's of local interest, I was getting my son's root beer floats at the A&W on Austin Bluffs and Academy. Right there, right across from where the old Chicago was. That's where I was. And I heard it on this radio station when Jason Kosminski, during the Nuggets game, mentioned what was going on. But I also remember where I was in February of 2021. I was sitting on my couch, and it was a good thing because I might have fainted and hit my head. I knew that things were not great between the Rockies and Nolan Arenado, more specifically Jeff Bridich and Nolan Arenado. There were some phone calls that were unreturned, and there was some not good stuff going on. But then to see on social media that the Rockies had traded Nolan Arenado to the St. Louis Cardinals. Rockies at that time looked to be a team that was on the come up. Right? They had taken they lost in the playing game or the wild card game, whatever you want to call it, to the Diamondbacks. The next year they got one round closer, got beat by the Brewers. Like, things were good. They let go DJ LeMahieu. No one really sweated it too much. Still thought there was enough there for the Rockies to kind of a retooling going on, right? They signed Nolan Arenado to this massive deal, so it wasn't Dick Monfort being cheap or anything like that. And then the Rockies up and trade him in February of 2021 to the St. Louis Cardinals. So why am I bringing this up? First of all, because things have been a little bit too good with the Rockies lately, with knocking around Shohei Ohtani and winning games, and now are definitely going to pass last year's White Sox team in terms of wins. So they're going to avoid that dubious history. So things are too good right now. I need to balance that out. That's first. But more importantly, Austin Gomber just got released. And if you recall, Austin Gomber was the biggest get in that trade, which is, I know, a relative term. Because not only did the return for the best player in franchise history look paltry, but the Rockies also told the Cardinals that they would help offset their cost of paying Nolan Arenado. So it got very little in return, and they had to pay to get rid of him. But Austin Gomber was supposed to be the one thing that you would see in a deal of this magnitude, right? Young major league ready pitcher. Not that you thought, oh, Rockies won the trade because they got Austin Gomber, but that was the tangible thing, right? The prospects, things like that. It's not tangible to us. But Austin Gomber being a major league ready guy, it's like, okay, there's that. Well, today they released Austin Gomber, which, by the way, do you know how bad you have to be for the Rockies to release you? Like, I'm not trying to pile on the guy because Coors Field comes for everyone eventually. Not one Rockies pitcher has made it out of Coors Field alive. It got to Ubaldo, it got to Pedro Estacio, it got to Sean Chacon, it got to Brian Fuentes. Coors Field is inevitable. But still, to not even hang on to the guy just because you need pitching, that's crazy. So they release Austin Gomber. So if you're keeping track at home, Austin Gomber has been released. Aluris Montero is now playing in Japan. He was the most prized of all the prospects the Rockies got back. 3 other prospects they got in the deal never made it to the major leagues, and the Rockies were out $50 million because that's what they had to pay the Cardinals to help offset what they would pay Nolan Arenado to absorb his contract. That brings an end to the Rockies' half of a trade that happened 4 years ago. And baseball players, it's not football. Baseball players play for a while. The idea that there is not one single piece of the Nolan Arenado trade left with the Colorado Rockies, that $50 million is gone. Gomber is gone. Montero is gone. And the other prospects never even got here. To completely shut that book for the Rockies in the most significant trade in their history. It was the worst ending. You know, some movies or books like are really good and then the ending kind of ruins it. This is not one of those cases. It was bad to start, it was bad in the middle, and it ended poorly. The Rockies essentially got nothing in return. Even if can you even quantify Austin Gomber being worth $50 million? Like, did he even pitch in enough games to where you add up all the money that the Rockies made in Coors Field when Austin Gomber started? Would that even equal $50 million? Because, again, he was about the only guy that actually played for them. Montero, we saw a little bit. Did they even make $50 million? I know they saved a lot of money, to be fair, you know, and I'm nothing if not fair. The Rockies did save a ton of money by not having to continue to pay Nolan Arenado. So I guess that's what they got out of it. They saved what? $250, $300 million. Yeah, I didn't think that you would be satisfied with that. And all of this that you see right now from the Colorado Rockies stems from that. That was a defining moment in the history of the franchise. Acquiring Larry Walker, opening Coors Field, the announcement of the expansion team coming to Colorado and Dinger hatching. All these seminal moments in the history of the Colorado Rockies. That meant that baseball in Colorado would never be the same. Nolan Arenado trade is one of them. This team still has not recovered and has nothing to show for it. Nothing. The only thing that is, because I brought this up before, like the only thing that you feel even decent about if you're a Rockies fan is that did really the Cardinals get much out of this? They got bounced twice in the wild card round. Nolan Arenado finished third in the MVP voting one year. They tried to move on from him this offseason, couldn't. I don't know that the Cardinals got what they were hoping for. Or the Cardinals got what we thought the Cardinals were going to get. I'm not calling this thing a lose-lose. But it did not make the difference for the Cardinals that they thought it was going to. Which just, begs the question, wouldn't it have just been better if this trade would have never happened? Yes. Rockies would have been better off. Cardinals would have been fine. They didn't need Nolan Arenado to get bounced in the wild card round 2 years in a row. Could have done that all by themselves, probably. Like there was a loser, a bigger loser in the trade. Like Russell Wilson trade is another one like this. Right? There is a bigger loser. It was the Rockies in the Arenado trade, and it was the Broncos in the Russell Wilson trade. Okay? Because you could say, well, they have Bo Nix, they have Sean Payton. No, that's what they had to do to recover from the Russell Wilson trade. Right? And they did a good job of it. I'm not denying that. But they had to do all of this stuff in order to recover from it. So there's a difference. The Broncos were the bigger loser in the Russell Wilson trade. The Rockies were the bigger loser in the Nolan Arenado trade. But you look on the other side of it, and do you say, if one is the loser, can the other be considered a winner? Or do you look at it like it was a negative impact on one side of the equation and was kind of nothing on the other? And I look at both the Arenado trade and the Russell Wilson trade as that. Like, did Seattle greatly benefit from this? I mean, they probably still have some players left on their roster from that deal. In fact, Drew Lock is back with the team. He left and then he came back. But have the Seahawks truly benefited from it? I don't know that they have. Did the Cardinals really benefit from bringing in Nolan Arenado? Have they benefited? Are they benefiting? Present tense. I don't know that they are. And it's just funny to think of these trades that you think are like one team is going to plummet and the other team is going to rise up, right? Russell Wilson gets traded to the Broncos. The Broncos are a freight train on their way to the Super Bowl, and the Seattle Seahawks are tanking. Didn't go that way. Arenado trade. Rockies are going to go down the tubes. We were right about that. Didn't really make the Cardinals the team to beat in Major League Baseball thereafter. Not necessarily lose-lose, like lose nothing. I don't know that was in Michael Scott's Mediator's Tool Chest manual. Like, what if one side loses and the other side gets nothing? They don't win, they don't lose. That is a draw-lose, and it is not ideal. But you can close up that book, throw it in the trash. The Nolan Arenado trade, as far as the Rockies are concerned, is over. And I don't think it'll be very long before the Cardinals' half of that trade will come to an end as well. 719-24-7, 1313. Coming up next, what are the Commanders doing? More NFL trades. The San Francisco 49ers have acquired Brian Robinson Jr. in exchange for a 6th-round pick. And, I'm really at a loss here because from the 49ers side, this makes all the sense in the world, right? You've been able to get by with, Isaac Guerrero and Raheem Mostert and in the Shanahan offense, just like when Shanahan was in Denver, Mike was Olandis Gary and Mike Anderson, and they could get anybody. But what if you can get somebody who's actually productive someplace else and put him into your system? And this is a little bit of protection for Christian McCaffrey. Right now, if Christian McCaffrey were to get banged up, now you have somebody that people have heard of running the football, which helps, brand recognition. But also, too, and this is why I'm at a loss. I know we were all focused on Jaden Daniels. Wasn't Brian Robinson pretty good last year? Doesn't this give the 49ers the ability to kind of keep Christian McCaffrey on a pitch count and try to manage him through the season to make sure he's available for the playoffs, which I think that the 49ers are absolutely going to be in? I think this is a really good football move by John Lynch. And when you look inside their own division at some of the question marks surrounding that team in Los Angeles, if you can bring in somebody, because you have to say it, even though Christian McCaffrey is healthy, what's the biggest risk that the 49ers have on the books? Christian McCaffrey gets hurt again, and yeah, we've seen the 49ers survive for a little bit without him. But this gives you a chance to, do a pretty good job of lasting if you lose Christian McCaffrey. So where I'm at a loss is, why is Washington doing this? Do they really believe in Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt? And you have Austin Eckler there, and big Austin Eckler guy, so I'm not going to say anything about him, although, how much does Austin Eckler have left to give here? I know you have a quarterback who can run a lot. Jay Daniels was their leading rusher last year. But then you look, and Brian Robinson Jr. was second. And you end up getting a 6th-round pick, which is, I don't know if you heard, less than what the Broncos got for Devon Vele, which is now going to be some kind of thing on social media in perpetuity. Anytime anyone gets traded for less than a 4th and a 7th-round pick, Broncos fans will chime in. They didn't get as much as the Broncos got for Devon Vele. But a 6th-round pick, to me, says they were on the verge of cutting him. That's just hey, anybody want to take this guy, or else we're going to put him out on the open market? Kind of an everything must go type sale. And, on those sales, you're not going to pay a lot. I don't think Brian Robinson Jr. deserves to be in that kind of a situation, does he? I'm legitimately trying to figure out what I am missing here. Because this is a big year for the Commanders. They are, right along with the Denver Broncos, a prime regression candidate from last year. Even more so considering they went all the way to the NFC Championship. There's almost literally nowhere to go but down for the Commanders. And you don't want Brian Robinson Jr. in that backfield? You're like, you're good? Now, I don't, it's a delicate balance. I don't want to make this out to be that, the Commanders traded, John Riggins in his prime here, but I'm just trying to figure out what they're up to. And the guy they have in charge came from that organization. So unless he's a double agent, unless Adam Peters is still working for the San Francisco 49ers in a covert fashion, there has to be a bigger picture here, right? Is it Ja'Cory Merritt? Because I've seen him, but I'm not going to sit here and act like I've followed this guy the whole time. Like, is that what this is all about? It's a little puzzling. Is this some kind of weird payback for, not payback, a give back, like for the Niners trading Deebo Samuel to the Commanders? Because Deebo Samuel is like kind of broken down. So I don't know. I legitimately cannot figure out why the Commanders did this. There has to be something else. There has to be more to this story. Not right now, but to come. Like, Adam Peters must have something else. Because I don't love what I've seen from the Commanders this offseason. I mean, Laramie Tunsil, that solid pickup. Deebo Samuel, I guess if you keep it, again, he's kind of broken down. He's not what he once was. Okay, so, but look, if you're in the, with your AFC brethren in the Denver Broncos, like the Denver Broncos added very little to help out their quarterback. At least the Commanders are getting someone in Deebo Samuel and getting Laramie Tunsil. But then it's like you're dragging your feet with Terry McLaurin. You're getting on the bad side of your most important offensive player outside of Jaden Daniels. And now you trade a productive run. The guy had over 700 yards last year. He's a 1,000-yard rusher. Like, I legitimately don't understand it. For the 49ers, I really like it. It's not, making or breaking their Super Bowl chances. If they lose Christian McCaffrey, like, they have no chance. But with Brian Robinson, like, could the 49ers still be a playoff team? If you're telling me Brandon Ayuk comes back and George Kittle stays healthy, then yeah. I mean, it's the best backup they've had for Christian McCaffrey. If I don't think I'm forgetting anybody. It's a good move. And for a 6th-round pick. For less than the Saints gave up for Devon Vele. I like the deal for the 49ers. I don't get it for the Commanders. Maybe you got a better read on this than I do. 719-247-1313. And I think, again, the Commanders are in a fragile spot. Like, I know everybody likes to dump on the Dallas Cowboys and not take them seriously as a playoff team. But when Dak is healthy, they win 11, 12 games a year. And the Eagles are the Eagles. I don't know that you want to be dumping assets right now, that you want to be losing productive players for you. It's got to be something else with Washington. But again, I don't want to make this isn't the demise of the Commanders or just go ahead and hand the 49ers the Lombardi, but it's a good move for one side and a curious one on the other. 719-247-1313. Text coming in from the 719 regarding Brian Robinson dealt to the San Francisco 49ers. I called the move curious. They say not curious at all. You have 5 running backs. You trade the most expensive one. Helps the McLaurin deal that is coming, and Robinson gets a fresh start. They're replacing 800 yards, not a tall order. Tell that to the Denver Broncos, by the way. It was a preseason game, but they had about 140 yards rushing on the first 2 drives on Monday without Robinson. He's going to make $2 million. $2.156 million is his cap hit. The Commanders right now, according to Spot Rack, have $18 million in cap space. So he might be the most expensive one, but I don't. How does that get the McLaurin deal done? I don't see that. But your overall sentiment, I think, is right here. This is not the Commanders, and we do this with these trades. None of these moves, Devon Vele included, is super consequential. Right? And please don't misunderstand me that I'm thinking that the Commanders are like phoning it in or making a gigantic mistake. I just don't understand the rationale to trade him. And I see what you're saying, and I appreciate your insight. I still don't get it, because Brian Robinson has been the most productive running back the Commanders had during the regular season last year. Just, it would be like if the Broncos traded Marvin Mims. Or, I don't want to, Cortland Sutton when he's not in the red zone. Like, you would look at it and say, okay, they can get by. But why are they trading this guy? Because I would say it's very similar to the Devon Vele, but I think Vele was further down in the pecking order than Brian Robinson was in that Commanders running back room. Maybe it's like the Devon Vele trade. They're just like, they like him and he's productive and they had a role for him, but they decide to move on. But here's the thing. Again, the 6th round pick tells me Washington was ready to just cut him. Broncos got the 4th round pick because they weren't trying to cut Devon Vele. They're trying to keep him, and you had to pry him away. I don't know. I can't imagine at some point during this season, we got to say there's going to be a point where we'll be like, it would be good for the Commanders to have Brian Robinson. Injury, I understand we all love watching Jaden Daniels run, but we know that that's not sustainable. You don't want to put him in harm's way that much. There's going to be a point this season where you're like, why didn't Washington keep Brian Robinson for this? Either because they suffer an injury or because this Ja'Cory Merritt guy isn't all what he's being cracked up to be. There will be a point. I promise there will be a point where we'll be watching the Commanders and we'll go, why again did they get rid of Brian Robinson? Maybe it'll be in the Super Bowl. I don't know. Like, I don't want to doom the Commanders here, but I'm just saying, like, the Commanders should be a team that's adding. Only adding. Right? Much like the Broncos have. Like, the Broncos add Greenlaw and Hufanga. Like, they should be. You got a rookie quarterback. You feeling good about it? Add, go, push. Okay, he's going to cost 3.56, the cap hit. Fair. Still, I don't see where that leads to Terry McLaurin's deal getting done. But I do think that you pointing out, there are other guys in that room. Are they going to miss him dearly? And I'm not saying they're going to miss him dearly, but there will be a point where you're like, they should just have kept Brian Robinson. That's why it's curious. But I appreciate the perspective for sure. And from the 49ers side of things, I like it a lot. They're screwed if Christian McCaffrey gets hurt. Do not misunderstand me, but nice little addition there for just a 6th round pick. This coming in from the heart of the Commanders fan base from the 571. He's not good enough. They have running backs by committee. Daniels makes everyone better. They know what they're doing. Keep watching. And that's what I said. Like, there must be something else. Like, do we see the Commanders maybe pick up a veteran running back when cut down day rolls around? Like, I'm willing, before I ultimately, this is just my first initial reaction. I'm going to reserve ultimate judgment until I see what happens between now and the start of the season. Because perhaps they're opening up a few bucks to be able to make a trade where they're bringing in a running back or signing someone off the street. Like, it could be different sports, but like what the Avalanche did with Charlie Coyle and Miles Wood, where you're like, okay, what is this for? And then as time goes on, you see what the team does with that and go, okay, there was more to that story. Or better yet, and don't misunderstand me, Brian Robinson is not Mikko Rantanen, but just the feeling I had after the Mikko Rantanen deal, like, this isn't it. This can't be it. And then it wasn't. They went out and used the extra cap flexibility to bring in Brock Nelson. I could see the Commanders doing something like that. So let's see what Adam Peters has up his sleeve. But I don't think this is McLaurin related, and I certainly don't think that Brian Robinson isn't any good. He's a good back. And he'll be decent for the 49ers. So I want to get into this. I mean, I'm not as upset as everybody. Trust me, and I get upset over. I get way more upset than other people about other things. So I'm not trying to say that this is my just who I am as a human being. I get very bothered by things that don't bother other people. Like, for instance, did you know that the majority of people do not tip Uber drivers? I found this out last night. More people don't tip Uber drivers. Who are the people not tipping Uber? I thought it was like every other tip. They say it's optional, but it's not optional. It's optional like your high school football coach said tomorrow's practice on a Saturday is optional. It's not optional. You need to be there. Like, I heard like 60% of people don't tip Uber drivers. It's like, what? So I've been, and they're still picked up by Uber drivers? I thought the tipping of Uber drivers that I do when I'm out on the road would help me get more Uber rides. That Uber driver would see me pop up and go, hey, this guy tips his Uber drivers and tips well, by the way, I'm going to go pick him up immediately. Most people don't tip Uber drivers. That is crazy to me. So anyway, I get upset about things, overly upset about things that I shouldn't, but this is not one of those things. So ESPN launches their direct-to-consumer app that you're going to get a bunch of stuff on, including wrestling. And they put out this, if you're watching on the stream, they put up, that made this mural. It's very well done, but they're calling it the Icon Mural. And in it, I don't know about you, my eyes are immediately drawn to the number of WNBA players in this mural. Like I noticed the WNBA players and Payton and Eli. The first thing I see. There are a lot of WNBA players in this. And you know me. And this is why you should take it from me, because, I talk about the WNBA regularly. I enjoy the product. There aren't that many WNBA players who are icons. Icon. You're calling it icon. Like, there's a few. I think, Asia Wilson maybe deserves to be in that consideration. Caitlin Clark, certainly, for what she has meant to women's basketball. You could give credit to Sabrina Ionescu and Angel Reese, and the list goes on. Paige Beckers, but it's like you got to cut it off at some point. You only have so much room, and there's just so many. And then you start to kind of go through this, and like, I don't know who that is. And like, also Brian Windhorst is on here. Are they literally saying that Brian Windhorst is on the same level as any of these other people? With all due respect, I enjoy Brian Windhorst's work, but this is Icon Mural. Like, I see Steph and I see Luka and I see LeBron and Ovi and Connor McDavid and Aaron Judge. And like, there are a lot of them. But there's also some ESPN personalities that are not icons. And the problem is that the ESPN personalities who are icons work for other companies, like the guy who hosts the morning talk show on this radio station. They just brought back Eisen. Where's Rich Eisen? They do have Aikman and Buck, Monday Night Football crew. That's good. Travis Hunter. Derrick Henry, there's Jokic, and I see Jamal Murray. But I'll be fair. Why are both Jokic and Murray on there? Like, you feel like you have all this space to put all of these different athletes, and then you put them all on there, and you're like, wait a minute. We made some cuts that we shouldn't have. Like, Jamal Murray is on this mural. The guy's never been an all-star. Why is he on here? So you call something the Icon Mural, and you're an entity like ESPN, like, you better make sure that you have all icons. So ESPN, I think they deleted this. Did they delete this, Ray? They deleted this. Again, not the end of the world, but I understand why people are like, this is the Brian Robinson trade of murals. Like, I'm not saying that this is somehow some kind of indictment on society. I'm just saying, like, it's a little bit weird that when you're roping in the entire history of ESPN, that you go so heavy on things that the general population didn't really care about till just recently. And I say that as a fan of the W. This is supposed to be like motel art. This is supposed to be mass appeal. And you have Payton and Eli, and it's not even them as quarterbacks. It's them at Monday night show. And I know why they do that, because I'll tell you what, if both Manning brothers were in uniform, I would forget about the WNBA players and some of these other like tennis players who have no idea who they are. And I'd go straight to, and I'm like, you're going to put Eli? The guy's shouldn't even be in the Hall of Fame, and you're including him in the icons? I'd be more upset with him in a Giants uni in this mural than him in a suit. It's kind of weird, though. Like, icons is your alternative broadcast show? Yeah. Lot of swings and misses on that one. And ironically, not a lot of people who in their job swing and miss. Or more accurately, people that make others swing and miss. Not a lot of baseball representation. I didn't see Ohtani in there. Maybe he's in there. But like the easiest way, and I can't draw or paint or do anything art related, but I would just like start with every significant NFL player I can think of and then go from there. Like Allen, Lamar, Mahomes, Kelsey, Burrow, Parson. Like I would have almost half of the mural just NFL players. And then I get to the LeBron and the Luka and the Jokic. And I kind of work my way down. There seems to be, they didn't go that way. The question is, will you now not buy the platform because of the icon thing? I mean, there are levels to this. Like I'm more okay with the actual athletes than putting ESPN putting their own talent on there. Oh, look, there's Wayne Gretzky and Brian Windhorst. Same level icons, both of them equally. I don't think even Gretzky's on here. Yeah, a little bit of swing and a miss. Also, the worst timing to put out something like this because we are just dying to get to the NFL season. And once the NFL season rolls around, there's literally nothing else in our entire world that we will even care one bit about. But we're not there yet. So you got to be buttoned up because we're looking for everything. Watching everything like a hawk. We looked at this mural like a Where's Waldo? Take your thoughts on it. 719-247-1313. I have a deeper, not conspiracy theory, but a thought on it in terms of who they're trying to appeal to. Not political, just the level of sports fan I think that they're trying to reach. Maybe I'll get into that. For now, I got to take a break. Come back. We'll hit the 3 stories that are driving the show right after this.